I got 1 frame a minute.
I might ask you to share the stream for the RPG, but we are now live, ladies and gentlemen. Rick in the chat
Oh
already.
yeah.
Look at that. And they didn't even hear you swear, Rick. You're as fuzzy as an old geezer, by the way. I don't know what camera you're using or whether you've got any photons, but it doesn't
Oh,
matter. We can see you.
don't make me use my other camera. Am I fuzzy? Really? I'm looking on my Twitch, my other monitor here. I look okay. You're looking orange. Why are you always orange, Ben?
Oh,
What's
man, it's
going
the
on?
white balance. It's all about the white balance. I'm going to adjust the white balance. Welcome, Rick.
Hello, I see Perceptual Lucidity Games. You know what? Have you been on any of the streams before, Perceptual Lucidity Games?
I don't
That
think he
name
has.
seems
I haven't seen him around,
familiar.
actually.
Hmm.
Mikey has just been teaching me piano, which has been fun. I've been learning. We're not allowed to play the song because music.
Is that a new software? Is that a new Blender add-on? Piano?
No. This is an actual piano, Rick.
Oh, an actual piano.
Yeah, one of those things you twinkle on.
That must be exciting for all the people who have. Oh, was it live streamed, or you're talking actual off-camera doing that?
Off camera, I was playing the Music Lab Collective version of "I Took a Pill in Ibiza" by Mike Posner. I recommend it as a very chilled song. Music Lab Collective, "I Took a Pill in Ibiza." If you can spell Ibiza, then you deserve to hear the song. Feels amazing, man. Great to have you here, Metitious. Very cool. Thank you, Gingerbeard Geek, for subscribing. You rock. You supporting us in our crazy efforts to entertain you and to actually write code, which I've actually written some code. Sam's not going to approve of it. If Michael makes a music theory course, you're sold. We might do that. It's probably what we would call intermediate content and not going to happen realistically for a year or so. But I think we might do. And I might be the primary instructor because I'm the perfect non-musical idiot to be the primary instructor, with Michael backing up as the expert and explaining how it's done. So anyway, Rick, hello.
Anyway, Ben, hello. Good to see you. It's been, I don't know, for me it feels like minutes ago because I spoke with you, saw your glowing orange face, went to bed, woke up at it's got to be 3 a.m. at the moment. It's so early. And then there you are again. So, but the added bonus is I get to see these lovely, I don't get to see all you guys in the community. I get to see your names in different colors. So I see the greens, I see the blues, I see a couple of oranges and reds out there. Good to see everyone today. And I can't help but note there's a lot of people on this stream hanging out. So delightful to see you all again.
Is that less orange, Rick?
I think we should put a poll on how orange you are.
No, I refuse to ask people to part with money to tell me how orange I am. So we quite quickly should be getting into what is this stream all about. What is this stream all about, Rick?
The RPG, it's a role-playing game. It's this project
that's what RPG stands for.
Working on recently. We're going to talk about design. We're going to talk about the next stage. You and I were starting to launch into a great conversation yesterday, my last night, your this morning, about the next wave of features and priorities. And I think it would be cool to get some folks in the community's input as well on, should we be diving into inventory because we have some hooks from our current quest that requires a bit of inventory? And is it to do an inventory style quest, or is it just to give people the reward of you finish the quest? Now you need to have some coins in your inventory, how we structure that. I know when I was doing the rerun the other day, there were some questions about the architecture. So I think if there's any architecture questions that anyone wants to ask, hint, hint, those of you who asked last time, then we can talk about that as well. But generally, let's just push this sucker forward.
So Rick, Teravice, so Twitch Dog says that on one of his machines you look bleached and I look normal. On the other machine I look orange and you look normal. So I'm going to reduce my white balance temperature a little bit. If you could increase yours a little bit, then maybe we can meet in the middle. It's the difference between us that is stark. Of course, I'm altogether more handsome, witty, and everything else, so this could explain the differences.
How's that? Is that improved?
You are slightly warmer than you were before. Not in personality terms, I hasten to add. That is always cold.
It is a little bit cold here at the moment. What could I do? I could use my $1,000 camera instead of my $100 camera, but it's set up at standing height, and I don't want to stand at the moment. Is that lazy? Is that lazy? I don't want to stand.
You're just a whinging old git. Let's get on with some RPG content. So I am going to start by giving you guys the necessary. This is stream 9, episode 9. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give a stash. I'm going to say, don't worry about all that old rubbish I've been doing on our project since. We need to start from a clean state from a version control point of view. So I'm going to go git stash, boom, like so. And it's going to reset me back to where we were, which is, it's going to reset me back to where we were It's going to reset me back to where we were. Okay, so that's because I created a new script and it does not want to destroy those new scripts. So I'm just going to remove those right now. Following container, irretrievably lost. I don't care. And I'm going to make a new branch. It's going to be called Stream9. And then I am, if I can spell Stream9, then I'm going to give you guys now in the chat the GitHub URL. Here it comes. There it is. Boom. And if you want to follow along with what we do in Stream9, you can. If I write a single line of code at this time of day, I want a medal. I'm going to share my screen.
Like aluminium, copper?
Yeah, an aluminium medal, Rick. That's what I've always wanted.
No, I was talking. Okay, fine.
What were you saying? Explain your joke. I like it when you explain your jokes.
Well, isn't aluminium a metal?
Yes, it is.
So I was going to give you an aluminium. I wasn't going to give you an aluminium medal or aluminum. Everyone in the States at the moment is like, aluminium? What is he talking about?
Right.
Okay,
oh, a metal.
good.
You're playing a play on words between metal and metal. I get
metal.
it.
Yeah,
look,
metal
dude.
and medal. So metal has a T. Oh,
Yeah.
Ben.
Sam, Rick, Mikey, all of you who I've just been on a stream with in the last hour. What you need to do, we have new conventions on this stream, guys. We also have new emotes. Check out GDTV, so :GDTV, and you get lots of new emotes. Like we've got a Blender one, and we've got Rick and Sam and a squirrel for when I go off on a tangent, which never happens. And we've also got new cheers. If you click the little bits icon and you want to cheer, we have GameDev cheers, hearts with little numbers in them.
You can also just click the smiley face, and it shows you the GD business.
Ooh, look at that, all teaching me how that works. That's a much easier way of doing it. Okay, and the other thing, there's a couple of new rules, Rick, on here. So when you're going to make a joke, we get some tabs. We have a new markup language. It's called the BSML, which is a bit like, it's the Ben's Stream markup language. This is like the BS USB from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And it means if you're going to be funny, you have to start with an open joke tag like this, and then you say your joke, and then you go close joke at the end. And that way we can all laugh. Because otherwise we're never going to tell when you're making a joke.
I have to do that when I'm speaking, or if I'm making a joke, I need to go into the chat and type it as well.
I don't know. I would say even when you're speaking.
It sounds over-engineered.
Let's make this stream easy. I am kidding, by the way. I also have some sound effects ready to go. I'm actually going to stop my screen share, make sure that I'm sharing audio, because if I play any of my sound effects, we have some beautiful sound effects for you. You guys have heard them. If I ever say anything such as string reference, perfect, then that happens. That is spitting into a metal bowl. And if I was to say such a thing as, what else don't we like? Magic number. Perfect, okay? So that means I don't approve of something. Yeah, that's it. Should we get on with it? You didn't use tags when you told that joke. Tags? There's another one. If anybody tells a really bad joke, then we get a very painfully slow and out of tune Yan. That lasts far too long.
Man.
And
I'm excited that we've turned into an 80s radio station.
it is the direction in which we are heading, Rick, for sure. So shall we start now that we've warmed the stream up? This is like a street act. That's like, ladies and gentlemen, stand around, stand behind the rope. This is going to be fantastic. Just before we get started today.
Don't you walk away. Come back over here, sir. Come back over here.
I was on a seminar recently, and this dude, there weren't that many people in the room. This was a brilliant tactic. So he just said to all of us, the 15 people who were in the room, I just want you to scream and shout and holler like it's amazing. Let's do that in the chat. Let's just slam the chat as if what we're doing is amazing. And what'll happen is everybody else will come. I'm not sure how they're going to notice because they're not in the chat. But anyway, besides the complete technical flaw in what I'm saying, just getting excited about something can bring people to it. And then you need to deliver on it. So let's get excited about the stream. The stream is going to be amazing. Roar, big roar, Rick, big roar, everybody. Emotes everywhere. It's going to be amazing.
Okay.
Pumped up. We are pumped. So guys, we want to talk about the RPG. So we've got this... oh, look at this. You know what? We have a inconsistent state. I'm just going to not save and reopen Unity because I had stuff in memory in Unity before I reloaded my version control. Therefore, we are in a slightly unpredictable state. And
while you're doing that, Ben, there's a question. Should I finish the Udemy RPG course before listening here? Nope. Listen here. It won't ruin the surprise. It'll give you more knowledge. If you can't follow it, then give you extra things to look up or ask questions for, but everyone is welcome here. It's not going to break the experience over there.
Awesome. And the other note is if you use remove in your version control, it will not delete the file off the disk. For that, you would have to do something like a git clean. Let me show you a useful command. See, I removed any old.cs, which I used in the previous stream, does not delete the file off the disk. If you don't want to track that stuff manually, which I recommend you don't, here's a good git command for you. Clip this if you find it useful, guys. This is how you clean up your history to make sure you're going back to where you were before. You go git clean minus xdf. Force, and then recurse directories, and then whatever X does. All right, it's to do with untracked files. Then it's going to delete all the stuff that I didn't want to have stored. So there's that. Now, where did we get to, Rick? How do we resurrect the conversation we had earlier? We should just go and get the Zoom recording and just play it and be really lazy and go to bed. Should we do that?
No, let's not do that because I've just woken up specifically to hang out with you guys. So let's talk. And everyone's roared. So here we go.
Roared. Look at that. Look at the roars.
So here's my understanding, because I haven't been part of all of the conversations, all the live streams you've been doing. You've implemented the quest system to the point where we can walk up to a character, click on that character, we get some ugly UI that says, I've got a quest. And we can do one of, I think you've got 4 at the moment. Is it a kill quest, a get to the position, i.e. hit a trigger volume quest, the escort quest, which I really like. And I think those are the ones, yeah? Maybe there's one more. And
no, that's it. Yeah, quest completion is a different superclass thingy that...
Yep. So the question is, how do we start to tie this into the inventory system? And should we do that from an architectural point of view, from a gameplay feature point of view? And I think the need that I have at the moment that I was expressing to you is to close the loop on quests. We need to have some sort of reward or some sort of inventory item or some tangible for the player. And we talked about, well, let's talk about that now. So I think starting off with just coins or monies is a good way to do that, rather than worrying about, here's the weapon, how does the player equip the weapon, how does it give them more points of damage, etc., to give them coins. And that could then go into our next system where maybe you need to have a certain amount of coins to enter a new quest, to simulate that you have to bribe someone or you have to buy a particular item, etc. So I think I'd love to see complete the quest, get some money in the bank. Cha-ching.
Twitch Dog saying although he likes the visualization of the way we're doing these quests, this is a completely off-the-wall way of doing quests, but I'm going to stick with it until we stress it to the point where it doesn't work, and then I will change on a dime, and I'll have confidence that we can change the architecture as we need to. So one of people's major concerns is, can we persist these quests through scene loads? We can, because we can just make quest a don't destroy on load. We can just make quest a don't destroy on load object, so we can persist them through scene loads. So that would be okay.
Would we then need to have every quest as a game object, or only the place that it gets triggered, initialized in the scene?
Yeah, you would pick up quests as you go through the game and child them to the quest parent object. So, yeah, they would.
It is interesting to talk about, why are we using game objects and not scriptable objects in this case?
Well, they're both going to be stored. One's going to be stored to a unit.unity scene file.
Yeah.
And then the other is going to be stored in a .asset file, I think they call it, for scriptable objects. So it's really kind of 6 of one and half a dozen of another. It's whether we think they're more logically tied to the scene, because the quest is given in the scene and tracks through different scenes, or whether it's more tied to just like, whether it's an asset.
The management, when we think of the management of them, if we have 10 scenes, 10 levels in our game, and I'm working in scene 3, and I've got a quest that I think is in scene 7, I need to go over to scene 7 and to adjust that. If I wanted to make some sort of holistic tweaks to my scene, to my quests, then do I have to go into each game object in each scene to do something, rather than, for example, just editing a new person's dialogue so it splashes through the various quests?
You know what we've just discovered is what we need to de-risk next. We need to prove persisting quests through scenes. Let's do it head on. 10 p.m., bright light in my face. Never going to sleep tonight, by the way. It's going to be your fault. Actually, I need to turn my screen brightness down a lot. One of the problems with using an external streaming coder, by the way, somebody put the squirrel sign up, please, for a second. I will. Is that you can't... how do I get rid of that? Oh, somebody else should have done it.
Not seeing the stream change as you do that.
You won't. because one of the things, two of the things about using an external encoder is one, one good thing is you won't notice any change in screen brightness, but you wouldn't anyway. And the other thing is that if I try and use something that makes my screen yellow, you will see that. So I can't use flux or similar or night shift or whatever. Anyway, so I'll be awake all night with white lights in my face, but I'll survive. It's for the cause. It's worth it. So look, dude, let's test this. We keep talking about what's going to happen. I think the most uncertain thing about this architecture right now is what's going to happen when we start loading scenes. So question number one, are we going to load scenes?
Also, just the game designer brain in me is saying, I don't want to have to go into and out of each scene to make edits to my quests.
Yeah, so the other option is we do... okay, if you're putting that constraint on it, then we test and consider this in a slightly different way. What we do now, then, Ricky boy, is I think we do my loop that I do, which is where you have even if it's on the splash screen, it's okay. You go from the splash screen to the main menu to level 1 or scene 1 to level 2, and you never come back to the main menu. You never go back to the splash screen. So I've drawn that really, really badly. So let me just do that. So you inject all the quests on the splash screen and then persist around this loop here, and you never come back to the splash screen. So you could just have them all in one scene, like on a start scene, and then persist forever. So all quests that can exist in the game are defined on a splash screen and persisted through.
But then to edit them, would we need to go and reload the start screen?
Yeah, so there's another
around with them there, and then go back to level 7 where I'm testing the quest. So
so my whole intention behind this is, yes, scene loading might well be needed for caves, interiors, etc. So we are going to assume that we do need scene loading. So good point, Twitch Dog. Now, a lot of this is I'm trying to design it so that as much as possible you can pause the game 10 minutes into gameplay testing, see the state of everything, make a change to the game, go back maybe a few seconds, ideally, and then continue game testing without having to get back to that, reproduce that condition again.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think about that for you. So you're saying if we put this on a different scene, well, let's do it for a second. Let's mess around. You learn a lot more by just doing stuff. Would it be, Brian, a use for scriptable objects? Yes, quite possibly, but we've still got to have instantiated game objects to get them for them to have different data. You can't have a scriptable object just sitting there and having its data vary from one instance to another, because you have to have instances of that class in order to that's why one of the reasons we did this in the first place. You need an instantiated object for the things about Quest to differ. You need some instances. Does that make sense? So we need some instances somewhere. Now, I tell you what I'm doing. I'm annotating. That's why Unity is completely ignoring all of my oncomings. Let's crack on. So where are we? We're going to make a level that really has... Oh, you know what's happened? I've activated VilQ. That's what's happened, which is my other screen overlay annotation-y thing. There you go. Now Unity will work. So let's make ourselves, Rick, a new scene.
Good question. Just on that point, Ben, the rule with scriptable objects is that they don't need to be attached to a game object to come into existence. So how does that, the point you were just making about needing an instance, how do those two statements mesh?
Well, let's look at it. So let's just go and look at it, basically. Are we in Village 2? I think we are.
Village 2, yeah. Well named, aren't they? You were saying that the other day. You were quite happy with how we've named our things.
I thought they were brilliant, Rick. I think that Village 2 is super clear.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Unity. It's misbehaving a little bit right now. Ugh. Look, if I make an RPG... no, I need to get this working. Why can I not load scenes? I'm just going to reboot Unity. Something else is not working. Okay. It's had a boo-boo. That's what's happened behind the scenes. A boo-boo has occurred. The thing is that it's a bit of a theoretical argument right now, Rick, because we're not running into any issues. And if you're confident that you can change things when you do run into issues, then I'm more tempted to run into issues. The least interesting thing about this game with this huge level that we're hardly moving around in is not that we can't load scenes. So we've got a lot more consideration to have before we get there. So I would suggest that we don't worry about the scenes, actually, because it's not the least interesting thing about the game. That we add more to this, which is probably something to do with inventory or whatever we decide when we try and reboot that conversation we had earlier. Then we take that piece of quest dialogue stuff, and then see if that will all go through scene loading and whether we need to, etc. Rather than
right. Well, this is a good example of, do we potentially go down a dead end, or do we look in the crystal ball a little bit and say, well, we will need to do this. How would it work theoretically? Let's do a little bit of paper prototyping. We would need to do A, then B, then C, and not keep going in the direction we're going, not keep building on the current foundation. So this is what we're going to encounter every day working on a big project like this. How far do we try to predict versus how far do we just do what it is we're doing at the moment and then deal with the cleanup later on, as you're saying?
Yeah, but as Mole Ninja is saying, something needs to be in the game to grab this SO data and track its current state. And SO is still a class. We have to have instantiated instances of that class in order for them to differ. So something's going to need to be in the game. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that data is in one. There's a place for everything and everything in its place, and only one place for each thing. Unity, by the way, got very upset about whatever sort of version control checkout I did. So it's doing a full re-import now. It's okay. It'll survive. Yeah. It'll come back fine. But I made it somewhat unstable.
The clean that you did might have broken it.
It may have done. Yeah, it may well have broken it because I cleaned with the Unity open. And I think it's just lost a bunch of asset references. That's okay. So let's just leave it for now, but be ready to change, because most of the detail of the code will not change when we have to do this. Most of the stuff we have written will not need to change. It will need to change a little bit, but we can still take a lot of the learning and everything and reuse it. So I'm not too worried. We're getting the general shape of it right now. And I don't want to get squirreled by, this is me not wanting to get squirreled, which is rare, by this whole business about persistence right now. I'm not too worried about it. The basic point here, look, guys, is it's fear, right? We're scared. Fear is false expectations appearing real. We think that and the only fear is fear itself, right? The only thing you want to fear is fear itself. So am I actually in a state of panic right now in this moment that we can't cope with level loading? No. So I'm scared of becoming in a situation where I'm really scared I can't deal with it. Well, that's ridiculous. Let's just get there. And then let's have the self-confidence that when we get there, we can fix it. So it's not preventing us from doing the most interesting thing at the moment. Rick's made a lovely, big, beautiful village, and we really can't make best use of it right now. So let's talk about how we start making best use of it. And I'm confident that what we build as an object, we will be able to reform like Liquid Metal Man if we need to. And we'll have answered the what question. What do we want? Remember the questioning circle that I often come up with, which is that you want to ask, I'll just get rid of this. I'll write it over the top of the version control. You want to ask what first, and we don't even know what we want in terms of questing. And then we ask who can help us do it, and then we ask where and when, and then we ask how we're going to do it. And then we go back again. By going around this loop many times, we refine the what, and we may change how we do it later, but let's get the what clear. We don't really know what we're doing here. So, Rick, where did we get to? How did we get to that ridiculous conversation about a heavy hand in the sky above the world that's held up by rockets which have fuel that's running out?
Conversation. Okay, so the core aspect of our game, the core player experience, is ridiculousness, being absurd. So we want to make a game where people are walking along, they're like, what? That makes no sense, or that's stupid, or that's ridiculous. And you were talking about, what if we make the quest givers real, the way that in real life they would actually have to do things. For example, when you complete a quest, wherever the quest giver originated from, he has to pathfind all the way to the player and then give the player the reward, which I said, well, that would suck because it would take so long and he'd get stuck, and him getting stuck wouldn't be fun. And you're like, well, but it might be absurd for him to get stuck. And that leads us down the path of what else is absurd, and the boundaries between doing something as it would actually happen in real life versus doing something as it would actually happen in a video game. So you mentioned offhanded, well, what if, a god gives you a quest? You also said, I don't want magic in this game, which made me go, like, in an RPG, no magic? Okay, I like the idea of that.
What's magic? Magic is something that's sufficiently advanced as indistinguishable from magic, as Arthur C. Clarke or whoever he said. So,
should we educate people on that when they first start the game? You might have a perception of magic as it relates to video games. You're completely wrong. This is what magic truly is.
So the slightly crazy thing that came out, right, is that what were we saying about quest? Okay, I started going down the initially crazy, and it might well be crazy, and we might not want to do it. Idea that if Rick's talking about reward, right? So the next thing I think we need to focus on, I think you're right, Rick, is there's some reason to complete a quest, right? and we get a reward. And you said the first reward should be coin. So the most object-orientated and physical way to do this would be put coin in the pocket of the dude who's going to give you the coin, and then it's got to get from that dude's pocket to you. And Rick's like, well, just zap it to them. And he's like, well, you could just have a big hand in the sky that kind of comes down Monty Python style and gives you coin. And I'm like, yeah, but how's that hand going to stay in the sky? Is it a balloon or is it heavier than air, in which case it needs rockets to hold it up? and then you get into these ridiculous scenarios, like the villagers are running around trying to build a ladder big enough to get up to the hand in the sky to fill it up with fuel before it fills out of the sky, because the player's taking so long to complete the quest, and like fourth wall breaking and all that shit. So it's quite an interesting discussion about, do you use that kind of crazy stuff for inspiration, or do you not? And what's your theme, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think everything's awesome. Like, all these ideas would be amazing in an unlimited time and scope game. And we need to pick the couple that we think are going to have the maximum impact and then cheat. I'm a huge fan of cheating in games. So if you can get something to 80% good enough. So if the hand is just something floating in the sky with a little bit of particles underneath it, with the implication that it's hovering there, you have to walk over to it and click on it. It just appears like a horse in an RPG, one of the bigger RPGs where you whistle and your horse runs up, and it was just kind of hiding behind the house, or it was in the bush over there. So you don't have to wait for it to run the whole way over. It just magically appears. Maybe that's the same thing, the hand of God, which actually isn't a hand of God. It's some sort of mechanized, wizard hand is flying around. And I like that idea. I think it's cool. The idea of villagers walking over, climbing up ladders, refilling it and stuff is also excellent. But the amount of custom animation, this is producer brain thinking, custom animation to get people walking up the ladder, and how do you make sure that the player actually sees it so it's not off camera? So some of these things are brilliant as a narrative, but not as feasible in terms of game execution. So we look at what is feasible in game execution. Well, a rocket-powered hand that just is spawned next to the player after there's any kind of reward. So instead of dropping the loot on the ground, you have to look around for the hand and click on it. And, we can have a bit of fun with that. Maybe when you get close to it, the hand kind of buggers off a little bit, and you're like, hey, come back here with my sword of amazingness. And the hand has a bit of a personality of its own. So I think that is cool. That's funny. But without too much of the sophistication of, but how does the hand actually move? And it's just, is it funny to have a hand? Yep. Is it cool if the hand moves away a little bit sometimes? Yep, that'd be great. If when you go to click on it, it has, whatever the mouse move away from the mousedness is, I think that kind of thing could be really good fun. And maybe sometimes it speaks.
There's a really cool distinction you've made there, Rick, which is the difference between what you put in the narrative and what you actually put in the finished game. So that you can write some stuff into dialogue that you don't necessarily try and represent in the game world. So that's another opportunity here. Somebody's asking, yeah. Tasty Graph, is it? No. Honza, where are we from? I'm from the UK, England, Cambridge, and Rick is from?
I am from Australia. God save the Queen.
So there you go. Thank you for being here, by the way, everybody. So I guess it kind of came down to where in our GDD, and we might want to revisit the GDD, the game design doc, where do we want to think about, do we say that everything is feasible but unlikely? Because that's kind of could add to the absurdity, the groundedness. So John Wick, I was saying that the film John Wick or Mission Impossible, those are feasible but unlikely. If you took 1,000 scenarios if you played the scenario from Mission Impossible 1,000 times, it would work 1 in 1,000. It's the sort of thing that would only work 1 in 1,000 times, but it's still feasible. Whereas stuff that's like Lord of the Rings, we can't see any way that could possibly happen. It's not consistent with what we know about the world. So I guess one of the decisions, and what is this, Rick? What is, from a game design point of view, what decision are we making there? If we're trying to say, do we allow?
I think you're talking about plausibility in terms of reality. And generally there's a rule in game design where if you're, here's like complete abstraction, absurd, well, not absurd, but abstraction. So stylized, it doesn't look like reality at all. And here is photorealistic, exactly like reality. So you have to be careful with this continuum. if you're playing down in this area, like Mario is nowhere near reality. It's not, you don't look at it and go, that guy looks like someone I know. It's a video game. That's what it is. So they're not even trying anything. So they can put anything at all in Mario, so long as it's consistent with the theme and it's cool. People don't get upset. But pushing up this end, some of the more realistic action adventure games. So if we were to take Witcher or Skyrim or the Uncharted games, those games make you feel like you're actually there. It's a lot more realistic. The trees look how trees actually look, and so on. So in this instance, when you do something that people look at it and go, that's not how it would work, or that's not the way these things look, or that doesn't look right. Even a dragon that's not the right proportion. It's like, well, dragons aren't even real, but people have a perception of what a dragon should look like. Then people get very upset if you attempt to get it looking accurate or real and you fail. You don't get that close. So the indie developer in me says we don't have the time and the budget and the team of 400 artists to make things look the way they would, or to make the game actually real. So we have to make sure that we're careful to stay a little bit on that side of the continuum in terms of how things look or play or feel. Now, that doesn't mean, to your point, Ben, that we can't have things more accurately based in what people expect of the way people speak to each other, or the way people behave, or the way things happen. I think also, if we look at what would someone expect, and then how do we give them what they expect in this sort of game, in this sort of world, in this sort of experience, and then deviate from that, rather than saying what is real world, what is reality that you and I see it when we look out our window. We say, what is the reality that someone's expecting of an RPG? So, Maul Ninja Max saying suspension of belief. So we were talking about that last night, or you're this morning, suspension of disbelief. And I think because you're a scientist, you're a physicist, you're a programmer. You're like, I love that. You and I had a big discussion one time about gravity, I think in Tilevania, and you're like, well, we should talk about how gravity actually works, because it's not right. It works this way, and people they're going to expect gravity to work this way.
No one is ever going to gravity. Then there is no gravity. Gravity is a phantom force. Gravity does not exist. There is only curvature of space-time.
When someone plays our game, they're never ever going to be like, hang on a minute, that arrow doesn't look like it behaved. Is this real gravity? Yeah, this game sucks.
In reality, I don't care. It's all fine as long as it's fun and interesting. I'm good to go.
So my point there, I don't know if you caught it as you were off
having a pee in the garden.
Things we can't name on. Oh, you did name it. Is what does someone expect out of this sort of experience, and then let's deviate from that in an absurd way. So they expect that when I finish a quest, you get your loot. How do we deviate from that in an absurd way? Well, there's a hand in the air that they have to find and track down and grab. Congratulations, you finished the quest, you get the sword. And you're like, where is that damn hand? And the hand's like, hee, running away. I think that's the absurdity of the expectation that we can break. And if you think that there's an expectation in this sort of game about this is how an arrow actually fires, then let's do that and then break it in an absurd way.
So I'm slightly cognizant. It's fascinating, awesome discussion, and I wanted to leave that rolling as long as possible because it's super important for general game design. I'm a little bit concerned that the title of the stream is introducing inventory, and we said that now that we have basic questing and dialogue in place, it's time for basic inventory so that we can do things like gather quests. So I'm slightly feeling that if that's what we've sold, that's what we better deliver, even if we add other stuff to the end of that, and even if it's not exactly what we want to be doing. Slightly feel that if that's what people have showed up for, we better start to give them a little bit of that.
Are you saying that we should talk about the thing that we told people we'd talk about? Oh, okay. Let me just make a note of that. I didn't realize that was our new game plan. That's okay. Stay on plan.
No, it's not
Talk
you that's not
about
on plan. I'm just trying to,
topic.
I'm the squirrel, but I'm also the anti-squirrel. For every squirrel, I've got an anti-squirrel. Hey, do we need a Twitch dog? Can you make us an anti-squirrel, please? Twitch dog made us the squirrel icon, and we love it. Or was it Terravice? It was Terravice. Or was it Twitch dog? Dun dun dun. Oh my god!
Can we give the player some coin when they finish the quest?
No, that would be ridiculous.
And then have the coin persist on the player.
Of course we can. Why would we not? Wouldn't that be a perfect thing to do? Let's do that. Let's make it coin.
You guys are amazing. I'm not sure who you're talking about, but I'm going to assume you're talking about me and Ben.
They can't be. That's not very likely.
No.
What else is it? What are you talking about, guys? It can't be us. We're fools, masquerading as.
Fool looks like a lady.
We're actually fools masquerading as fools. Is that like Trojan horses? Or no, the opposite. Anyway,
opening up a Trojan horse and finding a little model horse in there. Well, isn't that cute?
It wasn't
How's
me.
your Unity? Have we stalled long enough? Have you got your Unity working now?
Nearly, but now I have to get my Visual Studio working. So Twitch Jog is sharing "It Wasn't Me" by Shaggy, but I caught you on camera. It wasn't me.
Are you using 2018.2?
I don't think Visual Studio's got to that version yet.
I did. You download it from the asset store.
I'm using Unity 2018.2, Rick. Oh, look, Lucy made it in. Bindi, thank you for including Lucy at this time of night. I'm sure she would be flattered or flatter if she was here. So let's pick a quest and let's get some gold. And if that's all we do tonight, then we have delivered on what we said we were going to deliver on. And then I'm going to have to wait several hours for the coffee that I drank far too late to come out of my system. So the NPC says, "Why, you old duffer, I'm surprised you made it this far. Go find the bridge." And you say something that disappeared before I got a chance to read it. Cool. And we need to escape the pen. So let's imagine that we escape the pen and we get gold. Let's start getting gold, shall we? This dude's patrolling round. I escape the pen goes off. We've got multiple quest tracks. We've got all sorts of goodies here. Let's get gold. So, a quest, what we're saying is that a quest has some sort of reward. Now, start with the type, the tightest type. Per the previous stream, you can't use var here. You're going to have to use an actual type. The type is going to be something like a int. And it can be... You're going to say, well, your reward doesn't have to be gold. So what? Let's factor that out later. Let's just go int, serialized field, int, and we're going to just say on every quest, there is going to be a gold reward. Yeah? An amount of gold.
Coin. Can you call it gold? Should we call it gold or coin?
Reward
People
coins.
in the chat, what do you think? Gold or coin? Gold, coin.
What's the currency in this game going to be called, Sam? We need Rick, even. We need a funny currency.
I don't think the currency should be called Sam. That doesn't make sense.
No,
although, you know what? That would be dumb and funny. Let's call them Sams. That'll be 37 Sams, thanks.
Okay, can we go one stupider than Sam? Well, yeah, Ben. And can we go one stupider than Ben? Yeah, we could. Mikey, because we reward Mikeys. Can we go one stupider than Mikey? Yeah, Jan. Let's go one stupider than that. Let's call them reward Ricks.
Okay, they're Ricks. Fine, I'm happy with that. I'm going to take that not as a massive insult, but as self-indulgent grandizing. So yeah, we'll call them Rick Bucks.
So we're actually seeing in the chat Samlings.
Samlings.
Samlings is pretty funny.
Oh, we could. You know what? Instead of having gold, silver, copper, bronze, whatever, we can have a hierarchy where the most, like the gold, the higher, it's Ricklings or Rickbucks, and then
hold on,
and then all the way down to you can have some grotty Bens in your pocket.
Rick Bucks, Ben Bucks, Sam Bucks.
Rickles.
Okay, so at this point we don't spend so long thinking about naming. We're going to call it Reward Samlings for the moment.
Okay.
And then what that means is, because this is on the parent class, so tilt, standby. I'm in completely and utterly the wrong script. That was my, this is the late at night. It's like, I'm doing something stupid, but it's taken the other bit of my brain a while to realize. Let's open the quest script, ladies and gentlemen. Very soon I
think you should open every single script in the game into Visual Studio so you've got them all handy and you don't make any mistakes.
Did that. Still made the
Have
mistake.
them all there. Yeah.
They're here.
Good.
So what we're saying to the parent class, let's be clear, that this quest inherits from mono behavior, and then the specific... No, we actually don't have any extension of that quest behavior. So that's it, just inherits from mono behavior. So let's go look at some of our quests. They should all now get a new serialized field on them. See you guys later. I have to skin a cat. Okay. Having technical cat difficulties. I'll post it later. Thank you very much.
Kid friendly, thanks.
Reward samlings. How many samlings do we get for escaping the pen, Rick?
100.
100 samlings. And that's the only one that's got any currency right now. Otherwise, it defaults to 0, right? So for escaping the pen, we get 100 samlings. That means all of these have optional reward samlings, right?
Yep.
Where 0 means 0 for... So we could put a tooltip in. Do we want to make 0 a special value? Which means that no behavior occurs if you have 0 samlings.
No behavior occurs if you have 0. So
if you had some, maybe we get a...
amount to 0?
What's that?
You're saying if you set the reward amount to 0, then...
Yeah, do we want to make that a special value rather than having a second field that says whether you get coin or don't get coin?
Oh, I see. So if it's just 0, it means you don't get any.
Yeah, and probably nothing happens.
And over a bag of 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 0 is
cool.
okay. That's all we need to say in the tooltip. So why not use a property for setting quest state instead of set method? We are saying, are you saying do this? Who is suggesting this? Quest state get set. Is that what we're saying? Instead of having get quest state and set quest state, these things here do that, and then change the code that will be broken because of what I just did. Let me just see if that's what somebody is saying. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't mind doing that. Let's just do that refactor. Let's go find out what's broken. A bunch of stuff won't work, and we know what won't work because set quest state in journal 27 doesn't work. I'm not double clicking it because I've got an issue with my Visual Studio at the moment. So we could just say quest.state. Why is that not working? Because something's not public. Give me a second. It's a bit of a squirrel here. It's because it's not public. That's not going to be okay. But the fact you saying that because I'm making it, giving it a getter and a setter anyway, I may as well just make this public, in which case I don't even need to write get set. Is that what you're saying? Hermax. I'm not actually going to do that right now, but it is a possibility that we get rid of a bunch of boilerplate code down here by doing that, but then we're going to public, and then we've got to justify why public's okay. So I'm just going to go back to this for the moment so we don't get too sidetracked, and I'm just going to say to do, consider getters and setters, or consider get set. Okay, let's consider that, but not right now. Okay, that's fine. Let's make sure the game runs, and then we'll see what we're going to do with this coin. We need to receive coin for leaving the pen before my brain runs out of goo, or whatever it is. So quests now have a reward samlings thing. And over here, we can hover over it, and it's going to say 0 is okay. Cool. So
that's good. That makes sense.
What's that?
0 is okay. In a month's time, it's like 0 is okay. Ben, what the heck?
I was just wanting to have a conversation around it for now. This is going to end up being genericized into something that isn't just samlings, I reckon. So the quest inherently has that reward on it now. Now, if we go to the environment and the meadows and we go and find the thing where we win, the escape detector, the escape detector collision volume here, or collider, I think you call it in Unity, points to the escape the pen game object. So this thing knows about it. Now, it's on the completion behavior. Now, we have some generic completion behavior. It's called quest completion. This is the superclass, and all of the others, like kill, escort, and collision, they all inherit from quest completion. So we're talking about general quest stuff here, and we're saying that when the quest completes, we want to do something else. So we tell the journal that the quest is completed, but we're also going to want to, and I'll write a method, earn samlings. Now, be careful, because if we're calling it samlings, then we can't... So I'm going to say earn reward. We can't refactor samlings in one place. We're bound to change the name. If I called samlings in here, we wouldn't be able to refactor it. Oh, I'm hearing a wife. Hello, wife. How are you? Thank you very much. There she was, gone. So we're going to earn a reward. Let's make a method for earn a reward. What do you want it to do, Rick?
When we earn a reward?
Yeah.
In this instance, the player receives the 100 units.
Okay, so what we're going to do, this much stuff. I'm not going to say samplings. I want to be able to refactor it in other places. I'm just going to go to the console to start with. Just really simple. Make your life easy. You're going to need most of this code anyway. So it's the quest to complete dot. Now, we don't have any way of getting from the quest to complete. And this is where I might use, whose idea was it? I'm a hex. Huh, he's a hex. I might use I'm a hex's idea and just use getters and setters and try it and compare. So we need a way off the quest of being able to get reward samplings. So we could, and let's get rid of the tooltip. You're right, Rick, that the tooltip is not adding any value whatsoever. Let's try see the consequences of making this public, yeah? And then what we're going to do is we're going to do justify public. So if I make reward samplings public like that, then over in quest completion in general, I can now say quest to complete dot reward samplings. And I can just read it and I can set it. But if I'm going to write a getter and a setter anyway, if the three things I want are to put it in the inspector, to be able to get it from anywhere else, and to be able to set it from anywhere else, I don't really want to be able to set it. This is the thing. I don't want to be able to change, and this is why I don't like this. I don't want any other code to be able to change the reward samplings. I do want a getter only, and you can't have getter onlys in this version of C#. It just won't let you do it. So this with the reward samplings is why I'm not making that public, all right? Because I don't want another class to be able to change the reward samplings value. So I don't want public. I want a serialized field.
If you were doing this as a scriptable object, would you be having the same conversation, the same consideration about serializing it and public and getting it and setting it?
If I was sorry, I'm just showing them why I can't do get only, and then I'll answer your question. Read-only automatically implemented properties are not available in C# version 4. Please use language version 6 or higher. We cannot use language version 6 or higher. We can go to build settings, all we like. We can go to PC and player settings, all we like. We can go down to wherever it is, here, and try and change our version up here. But we still only can get to version 4, even if we go on an experimental version. So we ain't getting ourselves these automatic read-only properties. Yeah, stupid Unity using an old version. So sorry, we can't do that. Rick, what was your question?
The question is, what we're doing at the moment is you wanted to have it available in the inspector. The conversation of serialized versus public and getting and doing it the other way. If we were to go with a scriptable object approach where we're setting our 100 value in our scriptable object as a field in our scriptable object, do we have the same considerations we're doing just at the moment if we were doing our reward amount within our scriptable object?
We still need an instance of that scriptable object, so it's not going to be quite the same architecture. So yeah, it would be the same argument. So we're hearing from Twitch. Who are we saying? Twitch Dog here is I'm going to try this. I would really want these getters. Let me try this.
I don't think there was 4.6. I think there was just 4 in the list.
4.x equivalent.
Oh, 4.x. Okay.
Let's just restart Unity, saving what we do. Let's see if we can get the pure getters. I don't think so. See, we're talking about the difference between the API.NET, Microsoft.NET, and C#, and Twitch Dog is pointing out that 4.6 is equivalent, but we're saying 4.x, so let's see if we're there. Let's see if we can get these read-only properties in Unity. If we can, will we put that in the RPG? Maybe, because they're so useful, I would be quite interested. Never tried this, let's try it. What I'm hoping is that we can get to the point where this works, get : and then we can just, from another other class, we can read reward samplings, but we can't write them, and we don't need any of this stuff, is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, 4 is the .NET version, which uses C# version 6, exactly. So that should be good, but let's see. It will be good when it actually works, right? Is inaccessible to its protection level. It will be. Quest completion 28. 28.reward samplings. No, that should be okay. Also, instead of type variable, get maybe having type variable private set will do. Maybe it will now in this C# version. Let's have a look. Maybe that will work. No. Accessor must be more restrictive property quest.reward samplings. Yeah, I would need serialized field. Is, you see, if I explicitly say this wants to be private, it's still not going to have it. I can't make this public. Protected has nothing to do with it because we're not. It's nothing to do with inheritance here. Oh no, it is. Hang on. Request completion is no. It's not inheriting from there. I think we're still up against a wall, guys. What do you think I can do? Tell me in the chat. I'd love to solve this. I'd love to have to not write this boilerplate code. It would save us hours in the long run. Yeah, but I don't want to take off the serialized field because I want to see it in the inspector. Can't just take off the serialized field because we need to be able to set the reward samplings in the inspector. What I think we're up against a brick wall, unless I'm missing. Either I'm being stupid here, or we're up against a brick wall. What are the coding options under your build settings? Let's have a look. It'd be great. It would be great to get around this problem, but last time I looked, I couldn't find a way around it. I didn't look that hard. What do you want? Scripting backend mono, .NET 4. You have to, in order, use the get : private set. Sure. Making it public makes it available in the inspector. Yes, but making it public. Okay, so yes, a side effect of making it public is it puts it in the inspector. Maybe you're saying I can do this, private set, something like that. Is that what you're suggesting we try and do? That might do it. With this version of C#, that might do it. Let's have a look. That would be great. Thank you, by the way. But it's the, what's the word? Group?
Team.
Well, how we...
Team think?
Team think. I'm going to call it team think because that's a word. I've been wanting to get around this for a while, so it would be nice if it works. So escape the pen is now public int reward. No, Unity isn't serializing it. Yeah, because groupthink's bad, exactly. See, it's still not doing it. And is this because of the private set? See, public should have put it in the inspector. I'm on the quest, right? I'm saving the quest. I'm going back into the Unity. And I'm trying to see if this will show. It's not doing so. If I now get rid of any qualifiers about getting set, let's see what happened with the reward samplings. We'd really expect now when this compiles for this to appear under here. So let's just see if it does. There you go. It's come back. You see that behavior? Reward samplings is there when I make it public, but the moment I try and go get : or get private set, either of those seem to be breaking it from the test I've just done. It's just not serializing to the inspector anymore. What do we do? We're in a corner. Don't show in Unity yet. Exactly. Version of Unity, version of C#. We're up against a wall, I think, guys. I'd love to solve it, but I think we're against a wall. So this is the solution still for now is we serialize. We don't mess around with getters and setters like that. Got to make a custom editor. Please do. That would be awesome. Public int, it's an int, isn't it? And then we're just going to have to write the boilerplate. You know what we can probably do? Right click, encapsulate field, but still use field. Does that do? Yes, we can do that. And then take the setter away. It's not a very nice name. There's all sorts of stuff you can do, right, depending on your IDE, by right-clicking, and sorry to get so stuck on this, but it is annoying having to write this boilerplate. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do by right-click and then doing this type of stuff. Generate a getter, for instance. Yeah? And then you public int reward samplings get, and then reward samplings, and then it makes it a property, which means that over in the quest completion, we have to say .reward samplings as a property, which I don't really like, because you have to spot the P, and otherwise you should be putting brackets around it, but that would work. And then, whatever. There's ways the IDE can help you, or you can just write your own little getter, so it's all good fun. Now, when we complete this quest, we go get the quest, we complete the quest. See how many side tangents there are about these simple, so seemingly simple things. and receive this much stuff 0. Why did we receive 0? Because we've been messing around with a field, and in messing around with a field, we overwrote it. In a previous stream, I think it was my last RPG stream, episode 8, we talked about how not to overwrite serialized fields by being very careful about how you rename and redo these things, the data migration. So yeah, thank you for being here, by the way, guys. You received this much stuff 100. Let's commit this after I've changed back to a slightly more consistent getter, because this is not how we would normally do things. We would just go public int get reward samplings. Actually, let's standardize on a way of letting the IDE help us. You guys on PCs, what do you get here when in terms of these options to like encapsulate or to this sort of stuff? What do you get? Int reward samplings 1, don't really like that. They all do the same thing, actually. Encapsulate and use as property, they're all doing the same thing. Do you get similar stuff on the PC?
Yep, let me just fire up.
For not losing your designer data. Yeah, formally serialize as attribute. Yes, we should consider that, but we've got ways of doing it without, but that's cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, so on PC, what do you get if you make a serialized field something and you get what kind of right click? Because I'm getting told off by people for showing you stuff that only works on the Mac. And of course, Visual Studio Community Mac is a very different tool.
The main one I remember, I'm just starting this up now. The main one I remember is when you refactor, doing a quick refactor, there's only one step for you, right click and there it is. But in PC, there's 2 steps. Let me just find a script.
So we could just go generate getter, encapsulate, and but still use field. So we could do this. We could return quest state equals value. We could do all that, and then we could get rid of, we could change the paradigm basically, so that these things are now auto-created by right-clicking. I'm going to do that just for fun. So I'm going to just say these properties, well, this code was written by the refactor tool.
Right-click. You know what? I think there's just 2 steps in there. I have, my first option is quick actions and refactorings. Wants me to, I have the option to extract that as a method. Oh, you still with me?
Yep.
Okay, just looked like the stream stopped.
I'm just going to change, I'm just going to refactor for this just because why not? Because those things can just be created automatically, and we'll see if we start teaching people that as a way of doing things moving forward. Start using properties with capital letters. It also does capital letters. We can probably customize that. Resharper is a pretty cool tool. I like Resharper. I really need to fix my Visual Studio opening loads of versions. This is really annoying. Escort CS has a problem now. Okay, nearly there, and then we will commit, and we will have made some progress. It's very ridiculously small progress, but there's been a lot of tangential value, hopefully, in this stream. So, escort, what am I looking for? Get quest state. Okay, so I've just gone through all the other files now, hopefully. If I save all, they are saved all, and hopefully it all just works, but we're using getters and setters that have been written by the IDE, which saves us a load of time. Yeah, cool. Received this much stuff. All right, cool. Let's commit that, and I'll put in the notes of the commit that that's what we did and one of the reasons we were doing it. So let's just do that now. So very basic reward added to quests, but there's a ... which is decided to use. So Rick, have you got it or not? Have you got a refactor tool there that lets you set getters and setters in on the PC?
Not that I can see.
Agent Unknown is saying, read Pascal case. I'm pretty sure the C++, that's the C# convention MS prefers, but maybe someone else would speak to it. Pascal case for properties, camel case for instance variables. Yeah, I think that's what we would go for. Which bit in specifically has bugged you in our courses? We don't use a lot of properties, so. Do you want to share your screen, Rick, just so we can see?
Yep. Yep.
It's quite important what's on PC. We want to make sure that in the course we teach something that's... Okay, good. I'm glad it wasn't many instances. I'm sorry. What did I do? Did I make a property in lower camel case? Is that what I did? Was that the naughty that I did? Lower camel case, as in lower first... Yeah, okay, camel case, or what I sometimes call lower camel case, like this. I just call it lower camel case, which is probably camel case. Yeah, you're nitpicking. No, but it's important. Those things are important. So, Rick, where are we? If you go to a property at the top of the class, somewhere, take any of those, right-click on, I don't know, max health points or whatever. That one there, yep. Quick actions and refactoring. Add, read only, no. Encapsulate, yes. Either of those will probably, just hover over those two, they'll probably do the same thing roughly. But still use field, yeah. Probably the second one down. Try that. Yeah, no, that's done the same thing on here.
Okay.
You can use public int, exactly, get set, looks better. Oh, what, you mean just do it from a code style? Yeah, then we've got to mess around with the way the refactor tool do it. They're saying we could just do this on one line, Rick, so that's fine. I could do that. I'll switch back to sharing my screen.
You mean actually type it out ourselves rather than using the refactor?
We could probably change it somewhere in Visual Studio. I think they're just saying that line 29 could have everything from line 29 to 32 on it.
Yeah.
You could just get there exactly like this. And then the same with the setter. So yeah, we could do this. And actually, it does look a lot better, by the way. You're right. So I'm going to dig into my Visual Studio for a second and find out where, unless anybody knows. And again, we should know where this is on Mac and PC, Rick. So do that for the setter as well, because it does look a lot better and it really is a lot clearer. Oh yeah, we've done far too much work, but the question now is there some way in Visual Studio, if you have a look on the PC, Rick, I'll have a look on the Mac, is there some way in Visual Studio to change the way that this actually works so that it's default code that it writes there when you do what we'd be looking for is something like, we can't do it now unless I choose the right thing, encapsulate is what I'd be looking for in the preferences. Is there some way to change the code it writes? Oh, I can't search my preferences, how annoying. Anybody know where that is? It's not there, I don't think. Do you have the opportunity, Rick, to do a search on the PC?
To do a search on the
of
PC.
The settings.
Settings. Account settings. I have under tools.
I can't see it at a first glance. I don't know if you guys know, but what we would, it wouldn't. What we're saying is, what's that?
Sorry, I can search options. Yep.
Can you? So can you search for encapsulate and see what we get, and maybe share your screen again? So if we can get to the point where we can do a serialized fill and then just right click and just say boom and then decide whether there's a setter getter, that would be great. No, I don't know. Guys, homework for you. Can we change the default code? Because I think that the code that it writes for us, where it puts all this stuff that's on Rick's screen behind the dialogue, this stuff here, where it puts that on multiple lines is so ugly that I don't like it, and it takes so much time to change it to that it's not worth the time. You can start doing other horrible meta things like using a text expansion tool like this TextMate thing, text expander, and starting to use that, but I don't like that. You want to be using your IDE for this stuff. So is model on the encapsulate field. So okay, cool, thank you. Code snippet. So they've done a Google search, which makes a load of sense. Snippet replacement, code snippet manager, tools, code snippets manager. So into the codes, have a look at that link we've just been given.
Yep.
I think that it's different on the Mac, unfortunately. Might be under the policies system. Different place on PC and Mac, you see as well. We don't have a tools code snippet manager. Don't know. Not sure this is great entertainment now, though. So I think, unless I can see it immediately, can you see the code snippet manager on yours? Code snippets I've got here. I did find code snippets before, but wow, is that hard to find the right thing. I think I'm in the right place on mine, but where on earth that is I just don't know. It's not going to be under HTML or XML or Python. Might be able to find it. I'll give it another 30 seconds. I think we're achingly close. Yeah, this is the C#. Come on, it's in here somewhere. It is here. Come on, come on. Who can see it? Attribute. No. I might just flick through them. It's not. Prop. Is it? Is it that? Because I don't see that I can change it to what I want it to be. Because I couldn't. How would I change that so that it looks how we want it to look without it doing what it did to Rick's code? I don't think that's possible, right? Yeah. I can't see how we can. Yeah, I know how to edit it, but I just can't see that's going to end up on one line. I don't seem to have the full control over it where it puts these things. So I think we're in exactly the right place. In fact, I'm even going to screenshot this because this is cool stuff. But what was the problem, Rick, with what yours did? Can you show me the code that the mess that it made?
Yep.
This is super deep. But you know, if it's going to give us an improvement for a long time. So yeah, still use field. It's doing get, and then it's doing return health. But yeah, it's putting those code blocks on separate lines, whereas we don't want it all on one line. I can't imagine trying to take that to one line would do it. I don't know, guys. I don't know where this does exactly how we're going to do this in here, and I don't think it is worth it long time. I just can't. I can't see it's quite giving us the control. Is surround with template, is expandable template. Short property of the private set. We're definitely in the right place. Probably got boring now, but we're in the right place. We get the idea. It would be nice. Good discussion. More than enough time spent. Haven't really made enough progress on, I would say, the inventory. Let's do another bit of progress on the inventory. We'll leave this as an open issue. It's quite deep. It would be great to be able to kind of get and set really fast like that. Particularly important, by the way, with serialized fields, because if you accidentally set a serialized field, a scriptable object field, but is what I mean, then you're going to write that straight to the disk, and you've really messed up. So if you set a variable by mistake from a different class in general, then you've set it in memory. If you set it on a serializable object, you've just set it on the disk, which isn't great. Anyway, Rick. So where have we got to? We have it just logs out to the console, which is rubbish. So what would we want to do behavior-wise? What do you want to see happen?
What do I want to see happen?
When we receive the monetary reward, what do we want to see happen?
That there's first of all, that the player's inventory, their particular amount of currency increases. Yeah, so they now possess the ownership is transferred from quest giver to player.
Okay, so we need to mock up some sort of ability to add currency to the player without actually giving that play, without spending too much time over in the character class while we're trying to think about quests. That's where we were talking about it leaking into inventory. So we could decide that the API is going to be that we say to the character, and wow, this thing needs to be a scriptable object, but it says that at the top. We could say that we say to the character, add coin or add something like that, add reward, and that the character then just stores that temporarily as an instance variable, and that we deal with the rest of it later. Don't know why Visual Studio Beer Will is taking so long to load. I'm sorry, I don't know why your Visual Studio. Does anybody else know why his Visual Studio is taking so long to load? So what do we want to see inside the quest completion? We want to say something like, firstly, do we want quest completion to have to be able to see the characters? Is this a good interface? Do I want to have to say using RPG.characters? Because does it make sense for quest completion in general to talk to characters? It probably does. So that's okay. So let's do that using. Always good to ask. Nope. I really am too tired now. So I'm going to do a little bit more and then I'm going to go to bed. It's been a long stream anyway. Using RPG.characters. Awesome. And what we want to do is we want to do something like go find the character that is the player. So find the player. So this is where we talked about in the previous stream. Var player equals find object of type, which I think is just find, not type, tag, which we don't have. So it's game object. Oh, capital G, it's a static method, I think. Dot tag. There you go. Find with tag player. And we live with that for the player tag because it's so commonly used. So we get the player back and we want to be able to do something knowing the player is, we need to be as a character. So var is going to come back as a game object. If I try and say character now, is it going to allow me to do the implicit cast? No. So I better go and get the component is the right way of doing it. Player.getComponent is a way of doing it of type character. Oops. Potentially dot, and then I want to be able to say something like add reward. And to mock that up, I could just make a new field, which is about... I don't like putting it here. This character actually seems to be more about character movement than just character. So I don't like extending character any further. Are other characters in the game going to be to have money, Rick?
I don't. We won't have a concept of it. This is one of those things where it will be hidden to the player. They only have money. Sorry. Let me think about this. So an NPC, no. But a shopkeeper, yes. A shopkeeper, we would possibly want to have an awareness of the shopkeeper has a certain amount of, here's a design decision. Personally, I get very frustrated when I go to the shopkeeper. They've only got 200 schmeckles and I'm trying to sell all my stuff for 500 and they don't have enough money to buy it. I'm like, that has slowed me down as a player. So I think I would not worry about the concept of shopkeepers in our game having currency. It's just, we have currency or we don't have currency. And if we want to go and dump all of our stuff and sell it for 10,000, samlings, then so be it. So
that's Schmeckles now, Rick. We've done the rename.
Schmeckles, yeah.
SCH Meckles. So the question comes is it characters, all characters that have this concept of inventory or money or not? It probably isn't. We're actually probably creating a new class called inventory, which is in the character's namespace, and for the moment can just hold how much money they have. And then we can start to see how the inter-object communication works. So I think I would be making a new class in the character's namespace, because inventory is about the player. Call it inventory, which is far too broad, but you always want to start with the broad thing and then specialize it down later when you need to. And we're going to say that a character has a serialized field, or just read on. I'll show you the inspector trick. We'll make it private, and we'll just say Schmeckles. Private int Schmeckles. Now, if we're going to rename Schmeckles, we've got a problem, because if I'm putting it in two places, then it's going to be in quest here. I was very easy to rename Schmeckles before, reward Schmeckles. I'm not going to be able to rename that. So we're just going to need to create a generic name behind the scenes, Rick, like coin or something, and then call it something different to the player level later.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just call it coin. That way, when we have we're like, wouldn't it be neat if player-facing things, we don't want to have to go and fart with our code to change that. So I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Coin.
So what we can simply do is we can have a public void returns nothing, add coin, or give coin, add coin will do, and it's going to take in an int amount, and it's just simply going to say coin plus equals amount. So really simple stuff. So that's a coin. Now we better put this in the namespace RPG dot characters, like so. So that all gets indented. Watch out when you indent like this with namespaces. You can get confused about what you're writing there. I started writing something outside of a method earlier, which wasn't brilliant. We don't need private because we don't bother with that on our variables because it's kind of implicit. Now on quest completion, what we're going to want to do is not get the character. We still need the character's namespace. We could be oh no, there is no sub namespace. So we don't need we do need the character namespace. We don't need to get the character. We need to get something that has an inventory on it. We're going to assume the player has an inventory, which we'll add in a second, and then we're going to say .add coin, and then the add coin method is just going to pass in the reward samlings, which it shouldn't be called reward samlings, so it should be called
reward coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's pretty standard for us to give the player a certain number of coin and or an item. It usually wouldn't be here's your coin. Well, yeah, I think.
Well,
it's
we'll
good
talk
to be
about
able
other
to say,
types. We'll talk about other types in a bit.
Yeah,
but I think.
But I'm just saying, rather than leaving it as generically reward, I think we should be specific that it's reward coin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's take a look at this now. If the player now has the concept of the most basic inventory we can imagine on him, which, why can he not? Is something not compiling? RPG Quest does not have a definition for reward coin. Why not? Because it's late, basically. Reward coin, return reward coin. What's the problem? Have I just not done a save all? No, I have. Where does...
You had a capital R and a lowercase r. Sorry, I just very quickly saw...
Oh, really?
R's.
No, it's okay now. Don't know what that's on about.
Oh.
What was that on about?
It was one a method and one a variable. I just caught it, glanced at it.
Yeah, it's gone. It was just
public int reward coin capital R.
It's busy doing a bunch of stuff in the background. Unity was just messing around and catching up with me. So basically, so now if we look at the
20, you just change line 24 before it explodes my mind.
Where in here?
Yeah.
What about it?
Line 24. Is that a
No, that's a property. That's okay. That's what they were saying. This is a new thing. So this is what it creates for us. It creates a property. So the convention, well, at least the refactor tool is doing this in uppercase. So we're going to roll with that. It's quite usual for a property to do that. It's a bit like getting a game object of some sort. So we can go game object or type game object. Oh, it's being really slow. I'm going to leave it for now. But yeah, it's a property, can be in uppercase. That's fine.
Okay, cool, got it.
So let's have a look at the player. Let's add to them the idea of an inventory, which is the most basic inventory. If we I made it private, right? But if we go put the inspector into debug mode, we can still reach in there and have a look at it. So there's the amount of coin, 0. It's going to show you a load of other stuff, but some of that stuff's interesting. We can collapse down the components we're not interested in. This player has 0 coin. Let's go and have a look if we get the coin. Obviously, we will get the coin. There you go, escape the pen. How much coin has this player got? We have to scroll down the bottom. And when I escape the pen, I end up with... What happened to him? Oh, it spawned a load of other components on the top at runtime. That's why. And we must be off the selection base. What's going on here? Inventory coin. Did not get coin for that. Why did he not get coin for that? So... Escape the pen has a coin reward of you see, because we've been renaming things. So the thing you need to be really careful of, and I've got a nice link on the desktop to read about this other attribute, this thing here, this other serialized for whatever it was attribute, formerly serialized as attribute issue. But we have other ways of being really careful about how you rename and change these things. But I changed the name of a serialized field, and that meant that every game object instance in the scene would have lost its data. So that's what happened there. You do need to be very careful about renaming serialized fields, okay? And when we have a lot of instances out there with values set on them, we don't want to lose those values. They're never lost because they'll be in your latest version control commit, but they are as good as lost, and it can be really irritating.
Is the same true if you use public?
Yeah, same thing. It's the serializing that's messing it up, Unity serializing. So there you go. He's gained 100 coin inside his actual data object without printing it to the console. And from an architecture point of view, we have now tied our quest completion to the characters via this new thing called inventory here. So we earn the reward and off we go. So, and so on. And we can keep going. But I am too tired to do a good job of this. So just wrap up in general terms, commit, and that's a very short, but it's understandable amount of code when there's a second person on the stream and when it's late. So,
and when we dig around in Visual Studio to try to solve things that might not be solvable, I think that was good exploration, but it was a side exploration.
Yeah, it was. But if we can save ourselves a lot of time by every time we do serialized field, we right click and we go boom, users field, boom, and it does that. And if it could write that nicely for us, and we could just immediately kind of have it written in this format, and then we could immediately decide whether we want both a set and a get or not. That would be pretty cool, but I don't want to be doing this every time because this takes longer than typing it, and I haven't seen a way of changing it. If I could right-click here, this is what I want, community, if you can work it out for us, and we can go, right-click, boom, and it produces exactly this format of code, and then I can look at this and go, actually, I don't want a set, and just get rid of that, for instance. That would be awesome. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. I'm pretty pumped to see what we've got functionality-wise to have quests in there. They're actual proper quests where we're getting rewards and giving the player some structure. Go here, do this, do that. They're starting to feel it's really taking shape. Pretty pumped.
It is. But bear in mind, I need to give these guys a warning that it's very thin behavior. I mean, it's got lots and lots of problems with it. It's going to break down in lots of different circumstances. But we are still determining the what. So we're still determining how, we're going around many, many iteration loops. Okay, tonight we didn't get around many. We got squirreled by a whole bunch of stuff. But we're going around a bunch of iteration loops to really define how we want this thing to work and what it actually is. So, yeah, it's working pretty well. I'm not sure when the next RPG stream is. Well, I am, actually. It's on Friday. I may do one before that, but I've got quite a lot to do before I go to Udemy Live, which is where I meet up with all the other Udemy instructors. So I can't promise anything on the RPG before Friday, but if I can get to it, I will. Otherwise, it's 1 p.m., the middle of the day in the UK. Not a brilliant time, I know, for the West Coast of the States, but it'll be 1 p.m. on Friday. You can always watch the video on demand. They're online for 60 days. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed to us. I'm sure you're on the forum, our Discord server. You know about all our courses, etc. So I won't share that stuff with you unless you specifically ask for it in the next 30 seconds or so. Rick, anything else you want to add this evening?
No, nothing else this evening. I've been watching a little bit of Archer of late, so I accidentally did a Lana Kane. Nope. Anyone Archer fans out there? I just wanted to give the folks on the chat just one question each. If you have one question you want to ask super quickly, not something that requires us digging into Visual Studio, please. But if you have anything that you've been itching to ask before we wrap up, so that we can prevent Ben from going to bed just for 5 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm turning down my light. I'm going to make myself really orange now.
Yeah, Donald Trump.
Check that out. Turn the bright light off in my face. Starting to get sleepy.
Do you guys have a multiplayer course or part of a course? We don't have multiplayer Unity. We have a multiplayer Unreal course. And obviously multiplayer is something that is eternally exciting for us to work on. But at this point, we don't have a full-on networking, data management, multiplayer, like the proper multiplayer that I think you're asking about for Unity.
We do in Unreal, and Sam, it's pretty decent course, and Sam goes into a lot of depth there. And you would learn a lot more if you just took the Unreal course and reapplied the knowledge over to Unity. It's still going to teach you a lot about the Steam multiplayer API. It's still going to teach you a lot of the fundamentals of object persistence and server authority and all sorts of stuff. So just consider getting that and doing the extra work of translating it yourself to Unity, but while you wait for us to get to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be a better multiplayer programmer after having taken an Unreal course and translating it to Unity than you would just taking a Unity course on multiplayer, because you're even further away from monkey see, monkey do.
How often do we need to inform ourselves with changes to Unreal and Unity? All the time. Every time there's a new Unity version, there, we have a look at it, we check it out, we see what's coming down the pipe and when it's going to be stable. And mostly we look at it to see, is there anything we've been saying in the past that's now no longer accurate? That's our main check to make sure that we're not teaching people the wrong stuff. But new features, new nifty things, we look at them all the time and look to see what the impact of them is.
We were doing that in this very stream, right? We upgraded our version of .NET. We tried to push the boundaries with this stuff, but we're just up against a wall with what, not the .NET version now, and thank you very much for helping us out with that, guys, but with Unity and the way it implements this stuff. So it refuses to serialize a field when it's got a private scalar set. I need to go to bed.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. I think that's the questions have dried up. Ben, excellent work. Well done. Well done for being a champ. And to everyone who's been on the stream, thanks for being on the stream. Thanks to you guys for being champs as well. And we will see you guys sometime soon.
Yeah, as a beginner, Pack Docs, don't worry about the latest stuff. Just crack on with making games, learning stuff. It doesn't matter if you're learning Unity 4. You know, you're still going to learn the fundamentals. It's the focus on the fundamentals, the basics for now. You know, don't go nuts on chasing the latest version all the time. All right, glad it was good. Ridiculous time of day for me to be streaming. Especially when I've been working all day, but it's fine. And Rick, goodbye. I'm not even going to speak to you after the stream because I don't want to.
Farewell, Ben. Farewell. It's been nice knowing you.
We have to do something valueless for 6 seconds to make sure that the stream ends properly. So we could do the wavy arms dance that Mike and I did. Here you go. Well, I'm going to... That looks great.
How do you do flossing? What are all the kids doing there? Flossing while sitting down. That's a dumb...